focused on refashioned. It takes its inspiration from recycled garments with well known patterns and checks, for example, the herringbone pattern. It's an activewear women's textile collection and it will be a refreshing alternative to tired, repeated patterns and will include bold and abstract designs. After gathering my second-hand garments, I began researching traditional fabrics, checks, and woven techniques. I was influenced by the Bauhaus and Annie Albers, whose textile exhibition I attended in 2018 at the Tate Modern Museum in London. I was amazed at her creative process and her engagement with textiles. I loved how abstract her work was, so I began to create checks and patterns from cutting strips of her work and layering them with other papers. Looking at my mood board, I knew I wanted to create a fun, bold collection. I began to create a library of marks and playing around with different shapes as I was inspired by a textile designer who I follow on Instagram, Ian Perry. He really influenced my idea of layering different shapes and marks to create an eye-catching design, and I also loved his use of bold, bright colours. The combination of dark colours against the minimal bright colours in my colour palette will bring excitement into this adventurous collection. I chose to work with lycra and jersey fabrics as they are lightweight and sustainable for any activewear. I began cutting strips of paper from my library of marks and creating paper weaves. This gave me a good insight into creating my own check. Thinking about an activewear collection, I can see weaves being used on a sports bag or an interesting panel on sports shoes. My secondary research, I was inspired by other forms of patterns that I see on a daily basis. I went outdoors and took many images of different checks, grids, drains, manholes, and fences that inspired me. I then began to collage my ideas. In uni, I worked with acetate and tracing paper, but when I put my images onto Photoshop and Illustrator, I loved playing around with the different colours and transparency. Looking at the shapes found within my research images reminded me a lot of grids that I found on city maps. So I began to research maps and I found a very talented artist, Ed Fairburn, who creates magnificent portraits on maps. The portraits captured many techniques that I was inspired to use in my project. I then spent a couple of days on Photoshop playing around with shapes and creating new patterns. Continuing with Photoshop, I began to warp and distort my designs, which made my prints more fascinating. I then played around layering different images, working with different colours to create a design that I could see working with my final collection. In uni, I managed to create 6 screen prints, which I worked with lycra and jersey. I used pigment, foil adhesive, puff binder and heat transfer dyes to create these fun, bold prints. These are the final prints that I decided to use in my collections, and I had a lot of fun creating the comfy, casual 2-pieces. For my first collection, I wanted to create an outerwear piece to go with the leggings, and I feel like this collection really worked well. Now onto my final collection, I designed 6 different activewear looks. I enjoyed experimenting with different styles of sports bra and leggings. Working from home after uni closed was a blessing in my eyes as I learned many new techniques on Illustrator and Photoshop, and I'm very proud of my achievements this semester.